So I want you to just imagine the ultimate symbol of 1960s counterculture.
Right.
Like, just picture rock and roll rebellion in your head.
Oh, yeah, you're thinking of the visceral energy, the sneer, just complete disregard for authority.
Exactly. You've got that image locked in, right? Well, here's the twist. I want you to imagine that very same guy sitting quietly in a classroom at the London School of Economics,
Right.
just studying finance and accounting on a government grant and, like, carefully considering a career as a politician or maybe a journalist.
That sounds like a total joke. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
But that LSE student actually became the mastermind behind a billion-dollar empire.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're getting into today for this deep dive. We are looking at the massive tension between Mick Jagger, the Dionysian rock god, and Mick Jagger, the ruthless corporate CEO.
And honestly, that tension is really the only way to understand his incredible longevity in the industry.
Right.
When you dig into the historical data and the biographies and all the financial maneuvers of the band, you realize the caricature of the strutting frontman barely even scratches the surface.
No, it really doesn't.
Like, he didn't just survive the chaotic rock and roll landscape of the 20th century.
No.
He completely mastered the underlying mechanics of it.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and the best way I can really describe his career is by comparing it to a massive modern tech startup.
Oh, I like that.
Right, like, he starts out in a literal garage phase, playing borrowed equipment in these dingy basement clubs, and then comes this incredibly chaotic, explosive growth phase in the 60s.
The scaling phase.
Exactly, and eventually he realizes the early management is terrible, so he just ousts them, he takes over the business operations and turns this rebellious little outfit into a legacy blue-chip corporation.
Right, reigning as the undisputed CEO.
Yeah, precisely.
Sure. I mean, the CEO label fits the financial trajectory perfectly, but you have to imagine a tech startup where your co-founder is simultaneously your creative genius and also struggling with a severe heroin addiction.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Standard corporate rules just don't apply there, right? You can't just send Keith Richards to HR.
No, you definitely cannot.
So Jagger had to navigate these highly volatile, emotional, and legal minefields while trying to balance the books, which honestly makes his business achievements even more astounding.
That is a very fair point. The stakes were just completely different back then. But okay, let's unpack this, because to really grasp how he managed all of that, we have to look at his origins.
Yes, we do.
And I mean the completely ordinary suburban origins that shaped his drive, because he wasn't born a rock god, right? He was born into a middle-class family in Dartford, Kent.
Right. His father, Basil, or Joe as they called him, was a physical education teacher.
Yeah, and he actually helped popularize basketball in Britain, right?
He did, yeah. And his mother, Eva, she was the hairdresser and an active member of the Conservative Party.
Wow.
So you can see the roots of his intense discipline right there. I mean, he's this middle-class boy who passed his 11-plus exams. He attended Dartford Grammar School. He sang in the church choir.
The whole 9 yards.
Exactly. But he compartmentalized brilliantly. By the mid-50s, he was drawn to music that was just completely alien to suburban England.
Right, forming a garage band and obsessing over American blues.
Yeah, artists like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Little Richard.
And that obsession is what leads us to October 17, 1961, Wright Platform, 2 of the Dartford Railway Station.
Such a legendary moment.
It really is. Jagger bumps into Keith Richards, who he actually knew from primary school years earlier, but what reignites their connection is what Jagger is holding.
Right. He's standing there carrying Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters records under his arm.
Yeah, and that shared love for rhythm and blues just sparks everything. I mean, they even named the band after a Muddy Waters song, Rollin' Stone.
But what's fascinating here is that even as the band starts coming together, playing gigs at the Ealing Club, living in this freezing, grimy flat in Chelsea with Brian Jones, Jagger is still hedging his bets.
He's not going all in yet.
No, he doesn't immediately drop everything to be a rock star. He actually stays at the London School of Economics.
Wait, really? He's still in school while doing the band?
Yeah, he is analyzing markets, he's studying finance. He genuinely considered going into politics.
That is wild.
He even compared a politician's life to a pop star's in terms of public communication.
Okay, so wait, the Rolling Stones famously established this image as defiant, dangerous troublemakers. Right? It was the perfect contrast to the lovable mop-top image of the Beatles.
Right.
But was that early bad boy image just a total fabrication? I mean, especially considering Jagger himself later admitted he felt he was just an ordinary guy from suburbia.
It wasn't a total fabrication, but the marketing mechanism behind it was very deliberate.
How so?
Their manager, Andrew Loog Oldham, he actively orchestrated that dangerous contrast because he knew you couldn't out-cute the Beatles.
Right. You can't beat them at their own game.
Exactly. So he positioned the Stones as the anti-Beatles. And the brilliance of Mick Jagger was his ability to balance that academic middle-class background with an adopted dangerous blues persona.
Yeah, I see.
He could play the untamed rock god on stage, but retain the highly analytical mind of an LSE student offstage.
But that calculated bad boy image soon collided with some pretty intense real-world consequences, right? Moving into the late 60s, the performance started to become a terrifying reality. Because it's one thing to act like a rebel, it's another when the British establishment decides to treat you like a genuine threat.
Exactly. And the turning point really begins with the 1967 drug busts.
All right.
The authorities basically decided to make a highly publicized example of them.
Following that sensationalized feature in the News of the World, right?
Yeah, which absurdly had actually misidentified Brian Jones as Jagger at a club. But regardless, the police raided Keith Richards' home.
And the absurdity of the sentencing is just wild.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jagger was given an unusually harsh 3-month prison sentence.
And for what?
For possessing 4 over-the-counter pet pills he had legally bought in Italy.
It's just crazy.
He actually spent a night in Brixton prison before the sentence was amended to a conditional discharge. And that was thanks in part to a famous editorial in the Times that basically asked if he was being persecuted for his image rather than his actions.
But that stint in Brixton, however brief it was, a major wake-up call. The stakes were escalating rapidly from legal trouble to literal life and death. And you see this most starkly with the tragedy of Brian Jones.
Yeah.
Jones was a founding member, he was a musical visionary, but his drug use made him entirely unreliable. He couldn't even get a visa to tour the United States.
Which is a huge logistical hindrance.
Exactly. So he was ousted from the band in June 1969, and then less than a month later, he drowned in his swimming pool.
Man, when you read Jagger's later reflections on Jones, it is really striking. He admitted they behaved childishly, that they picked on him.
Yeah.
But crucially, he noted that they just didn't understand the mechanisms of the drugs they were taking.
Right. LSD and cocaine were new to their world.
People actually thought cocaine was good for you back then, as Jagger put it. There was just no precedent for the damage these substances could do.
And the loss of Jones led straight into one of the most jarring sequences of events in rock history.
Right, July 5, 1969.
Just 2 days after Jones died, the Stones played a massive free concert at Hyde Park for 250,000 people.
And the imagery from Hyde Park is incredibly poetic. I mean, you have Jagger wearing a white dress, reading a Percy Bysshe Shelley poem, Adonais, and releasing thousands of butterflies into the air in memory of Brian Jones.
Yeah.
It feels like the absolute peak of 1960s peace and love idealism. But then just months later in December, you have the Altamont Free Concert.
And Altamont is where the utopian dream of the 1960s violently collapsed.
Completely.
The band was trying to recreate the magic of Woodstock, so they hired the Hells Angels for security and reportedly paid them in beer.
Which is just a logistical nightmare waiting to happen.
Total nightmare chaos erupted in the crowd, and a young man named Meredith Hunter was stabbed to death by a Hells Angel right in front of the stage where the band was playing.
Jagger later admitted he was scared shitless that he was going to be attacked on stage, and the Hells Angels felt unfairly blamed for the disaster and actually targeted him later.
Yeah.
The contrast between Hyde Park and Altamont, releasing butterflies versus watching a murder, it shows how quickly the counterculture turned lethal.
Which forces a fundamental shift in Jagger. He is no longer just playing a rebellious character for the press. He has seen the abyss.
Right.
He realizes that if he doesn't take absolute control of his environment, this lifestyle will literally kill him.
Wow.
This is the moment the survivor instinct fully kicks in.
And taking control is exactly what he did, because surviving the physical dangers of the 60s wasn't enough by the dawn of the 70s. Despite being the biggest rock band in the world, they were broke, heavily taxed, and disastrously mismanaged.
Very much so.
This is the moment the LSE finance student finally takes the wheel.
Because the financial situation was dire. In 1971, the UK's Labour government imposed a crushing 93% super tax on top earners.
Just imagine that for a second. Think about looking at your paycheck and realizing the government is taking 93 cents out of every dollar you make.
It's unfathomable.
What do you even do well for Jagger? The answer was radical. You pack up the entire band and flee the country.
Exactly. To avoid complete financial ruin, they became tax exiles. They moved to southern France, setting up in the sprawling rented chateau called Nelcote.
Right.
And it was in the sweltering, chaotic basement of that chateau that they recorded what many consider their absolute masterpiece, Exile on Main Scent.
But while the music was legendary, the business side was collapsing. They had an incredibly acrimonious split with their manager, Alan Klein.
Oh, yeah.
The sheer mechanics of that split are brutal. I mean, Klein ended up controlling the copyrights to their entire 1960s catalog.
Which is huge.
They were generating millions, but seeing pennies, and concurrently, Keith Richards was sinking deeper and deeper into a debilitating heroin addiction.
Right. Someone had to steer the ship or they were going to just drown in lawsuits and debt.
So Jagger steps into the vacuum.
He does. He realizes they can never again rely on predatory music industry managers. So he hires Prince Rupert Lowenstein, a Bavarian banker, to completely restructure the Rolling Stones.
From a band to a business.
Exactly. They stop operating like a group of musicians and start operating like a multinational corporation. They set up offshore companies, they take control of their own touring logistics, and they pioneer the concept of corporate stadium sponsorships.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because between 1989 and 2001 alone, the Stones generated over $1.5 billion in gross revenue.
Mind-blowing.
They surpassed massive acts like U2, Bruce Springsteen, and Michael Jackson. But by structuring the band this way, didn't Jagger permanently alter his creative brotherhood with Keith Richards?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it absolutely altered it by treating the band like a corporation. Jagger effectively positioned himself as the CEO,
Right.
which meant treating his creative soulmate like a subordinate.
Yeah.
But it was born out of necessity. Without Jagger, the CEO, there would be no Rolling Stones today. They would have dissolved into bankruptcy in the 1970s.
That makes sense.
His financial acumen preserved their legacy, but it definitely sowed the seeds of massive resentment.
Which brings us to the inevitable explosion in the 1980s. I mean, Jagger's absolute control over the band ultimately led to the greatest threat to its existence, a massive ego clash with his oldest friend.
Yeah.
Richards actually dubbed this period World War III.
Because the underlying mechanism of the band had shifted. You know, Richards had finally gotten clean from heroin, his mind was clear, and he wanted his power back.
He wanted an equal voice.
Exactly. He wanted his equal voice restored. But Jagger had been running the show single-handedly for a decade.
He was the boss.
He was accustomed to complete authority, and frankly, he felt constrained. He wanted to establish a solo identity away from the Rolling Stones, feeling that at his age, being in a rock band couldn't be his only defining trait.
And the animosity was just palpable when they released the album Dirty Work in 1986. Their relationship had reached an all-time low.
Oh, yeah.
Jagger flat out refused to tour with the band to promote it. Instead, he released solo albums like She's the Boss and Primitive Cool.
Right.
He performed at Live Aid without the Stones, doing that legendary duet of Dancing in the Street with David Bowie, and famously tearing off Tina Turner's skirt on stage in Philadelphia.
And the music press was convinced this was a death sentence for the Rolling Stones. Richards was furious. He released his own solo album in retaliation.
But the turning point came in 1988, right when they finally agreed to meet in Barbados to see if they could salvage the partnership.
Yeah.
And I love the mechanics of this reunion because rather than sitting down with lawyers and therapists, they just went to a studio.
Just back to the music.
Richards had a few riffs. Jagger had a few melodies. It's not like a long marriage where you talk out your feelings. It's more like a pair of veteran mechanics who have been building engines together for 30 years.
Right.
They don't need to look at a manual or discuss the theory of combustion. They communicate entirely through muscle memory, torque, and rhythm.
That is exactly how it played out in Barbados. They produced dozens of songs in a matter of days. They realized they intrinsically knew when a riff or a chorus was right. The conflict actually proved the underlying strength of their foundation.
That's incredible.
That reunion produced the Steel Wheels album and launched a massive record-breaking global tour. It proved their chemistry was just indestructible.
So we've explored the rock god, the CEO, and the feuding brother. But beyond the business and the band drama, there is a complex, deeply human side to Jagger that so often gets overshadowed by the tabloid caricature.
No, definitely. His personal life is sprawling, which naturally attracts tabloid attention. I mean, he has a massive family structure.
Right, 8 children with 5 different women. His relationships have always been highly publicized. His marriage to Bianca Jagger in the 70s, his long partnership with Jerry Hall.
Which eventually ended in annulment, right?
Yeah, after he had a child with a Brazilian model, and down to his current relationship with ballerina Melanie Hamrick. I mean, he now has grandchildren and even great-grandchildren.
The scale of his family tree is vast, but there is also profound tragedy within his personal life. His partner of over a decade, the brilliant fashion designer Ulren Scott, died by suicide in 2014.
Oh, it's awful.
Jagger was completely devastated, and in her memory, he set up a significant scholarship at London's Central St. Martin's College to support aspiring designers.
That's wonderful.
It was a very quiet, deeply personal gesture that contrasts sharply with his loud public persona.
And if you want to understand the engine that really drives Mick Jagger on a personal level, you have to look at his relationship with his father, Joe.
Joe remained a massive influence throughout Jagger's entire life. The discipline required to be a physical education teacher in post-war Britain never really left the family dynamic.
There is a story from the sources that perfectly captures this. When Joe died of pneumonia in 2006 at the age of 93, the Stones were right in the middle of a major tour.
Yeah?
Jagger flew to Britain, saw his father just before he passed, and then got back on a plane and flew to Las Vegas on the exact same day to perform a scheduled show. People were stunned he didn't cancel, but Jagger's friends explained that the show going on was what Joe would have wanted.
Wow.
The unrelenting discipline of a PE teacher instilled in a rock star.
That desire for his father's approval explains so many of Jagger's later decisions, take his knighthood in 2003.
Oh, Keith hated that, didn't he?
Keith Richards was absolutely furious about it. He felt accepting an honor from the establishment betrayed their anti-authoritarian roots.
Of course he did.
But Jagger accepted the knighthood from the Prince of Wales anyway. And why? Because his father was still alive to attend this ceremony, and it provided Joe with a moment of immense, undeniable pride.
It makes you wonder, though, does accepting a knighthood from the British monarchy mean the ultimate counterculture rebel finally sold out? Or did he simply outgrow the need for rebellion?
This raises an important question because it challenges our whole concept of what authenticity means as we age.
Right.
For Jagger, family loyalty and honoring his origins ultimately meant more to him than maintaining an outdated, rebellious facade just to satisfy rock critics or even his own bandmates. He didn't need to prove he was a bad boy at 60.
Yeah.
He wanted to make his dad proud.
And that profound dedication to the work that discipline hasn't stopped, he continues to perform at physical levels that defy medical logic.
It's true.
I mean, he underwent transcatheter aortic valve replacement surgery in 2019, and weeks later he posted a video of himself rehearsing his dance moves.
Insane.
And shortly after that, he was back on stage, shimmying and sprinting for miles every single night.
You saw that same relentless drive when the band's beloved drummer Charlie Watts passed away in 2021.
Yeah.
Jagger gave a deeply emotional tribute on stage, dedicating their first tour in 59 years without him to his memory.
Wow.
But they kept going because just like with his father, playing the show is what Charlie would have wanted. It all comes back to stamina.
He really is an artist of contradictions. He brought terrifying visceral sexuality and African-American blues influences into the mainstream. He quite literally laid the foundations for how a rock frontman acts, moves, and sings.
Every lead singer since owes him a debt.
But he paired that raw Dionysian artistic output with the ruthless efficiency of a corporate executive.
He took the chaos of the 1960s, and instead of letting it destroy him like it did so many of his peers, he organized it.
Right.
He monetized it. He institutionalized it.
So what does this all mean? Well, think about your own life for a second. How often do you feel like you have to choose between your wild creative passions and your practical responsible side?
Constantly.
We're constantly told you have to be one or the other, you're the artist or you're the accountant. Well, Mick Jagger's entire life proves you can be both.
Yeah.
He is the Dionysian rock star who will tear the roof off a stadium, and he is the meticulous CEO making sure every single cent of the tour revenue is accounted for before he goes to sleep.
He built a fortress around his art, using finance and discipline. That's the real legacy.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over back in 1975 when he was in his early 30s. Jagger famously quipped to a magazine that he'd rather be dead than sing Satisfaction at age 45.
A classic quote.
It's the classic cynical rock and roll soundbite we all expect,
Yes.
right? Well, he is now performing that exact song into his 80s, running miles across the stage every single night.
It's incredible.
Is the true mark of a revolutionary dying young and leaving a beautiful corpse? Or is it having the sheer stubborn stamina to stay on stage decade after decade until the world simply bends to your will?